Whoever owned this land long before we purchased Twa Corbies Hollow about 15 years ago, sometime much further back than that, another 10 to 20 years before, somebody got it in mind to plant a Christmas tree farm. And you can see in this clearing right here where they harvested them out. But there are the trees beyond this area that run along the rim, and they grew thickly and they weren't well tended, but still there are thousands and thousands of them. When we first came here, some of these trees were a little too small. Most of them were about the ideal size for harvesting as Yule trees, but not anymore. Now the trees have grown. It's been 15 years and the soil here is very rocky, and we don't feed these trees. We don't do anything to speed up their growth or encourage them to grow. But even so, they grow a few inches every year, and now many of them are pushing 20, 25 feet tall. Good will-o-wisp. Ready to get our Yule tree today, buddy? Let's see what we can find. It's been snowing for a week, pal. I would love to have been able to scout around the acreage around the old Christmas tree farm and made a more careful selection. But the huge storm that we endured last week, well, it began almost 2 weeks ago, the foul weather, and then it peaked about last week when we had 2 feet of snow in a 12-hour span, followed by a deluge of rain that lasted 2 days, and then almost hurricane force ice cold winds for another day or two. So that pretty much buried the land in 2 or 3 feet of snow. Some of it I can just stand on in regular boots. I'm doing so right now, but occasionally I fall through. Very hard going, very slow going. So I come in here and I find the smaller ones, the ones that don't get the best light, or the ones that are out in the open so they have the fullest circumference of branches, and every year I take one. I don't really worry too much about which I take, because when you have 20,000 trees in maybe a 5 to 10 acre area and you're taking one per year over the course of your life, it's not really going to make any significant difference. I've just noticed this one tree that I had thought was too small to harvest, but I've now realized the base of the tree is 18 inches below me. In other words, I'm standing on the snow beside the tree, 18 inches over the lowest part, which means that this tree is about 7.5 feet tall, and it's very full, very beautiful. This is going to be my tree. This one is looking very promising now. There is something to be said about getting your own Yule tree every year. And talk about tradition. That feels good. Especially on a day like this when the sky is blue and clear, just a little cloud, but it's a gorgeous day after 2 weeks of foul weather to come out and to get your own Yule tree and feel the tradition beginning to happen. It's a great thing to do for family. It's a great thing to do for the soul. Well, it's only about a half mile to the cottage from here. I'm up on our East 40 and I'll be back home just before dark, I think. Now the sun is going down and revealing a beautiful blue and gold sunset, and Daphne is making venison and cheese pie for dinner. And I have a bottle of black ale set aside to celebrate the gathering of the Yule tree. So I'm looking forward to getting it back, relaxing by the fire, and calling it a day after stumbling around in the snow to find that perfect tree.